before we begin to be Bedikat Chametz, on the night of Erev Pesach, we make a bracha, a Birchas HaMitzvah, Asher Kedishonu b'mitzvos v'tzivonu, like we do before every mitzvah d'oraisa or d'rabbanan. The nusach of the bracha is not al Bedikas Chametz, the nusach is al Biur Chametz. The Rishonim explain that that's because this bracha is for the entire process that begins with searching for the chametz, with Bedikas Chametz, and it is completed with a physical destruction of the chametz, and therefore the nusach is al biur chametz. The Rishonim also say that therefore we don't make a bracha when we burn the chametz because it's covered by the bracha that we already made before we began the bedika of the chametz. So we see that it's interesting that this mitzvah of biur chametz, we don't perform it at once, not even in one long maisa, but it's spread out over 2 days, and it's performed in stages. And between the stages, there's time that we do nothing to advance the destruction of the chametz. So we don't find something like this anywhere else. So what could this mean? What are we supposed to learn from this maybe? So we spoke last week about what we say in the Haggadah. We say Baruch Shomer Haftachosoi LiYisrael. Baruch Hu She'Hakadosh Baruch Hu Chishay V'Saketz Lasois. That blessed is the Rebbeinu Shalom that keeps his promise, the Klal Yisrael, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu calculated the end of the Golus, as he said to Avram, "Vayomer Avram Yodoya Teida Ki Ger Yeh Zaracha Be'eretz Lo Lahem Va'avodum Ve'inu Oisam Arba Me'ez Shana Va'achrei Chen Yetzu B'Rechush Godel." And immediately afterwards we say, "V'hi she'amda la'avoseinu v'lanu shelo yechad bilvad omad oleinu l'chaloseinu." We say that this is what stood by our avos, our ancestors, and us, because it's not just echad that was omad oleinu l'chaloseinu; it's b'chol dor v'dor oimdim oleinu l'chaloseinu v'Hakadosh Baruch Hu matzilenu miyodam. Which means that haftoche, that promise that HaKadosh Baruch Hu promised Avram Avinu, is what protects us from all our enemies throughout the generations. And there's a simple question over here. That promise that was given in the Bris Ben Absarim was that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will take us out of Mitzrayim. We'll be there for 400 years, and then we'll be released. But how does that haftoche have anything to do with our ongoing situation in Golus, in Kol Dor Vador, Oimdim Aleinu L'Chaleseinu? Where do we see in that original promise that HaKadosh Baruch Hu promised Avram Avinu that He'll take us out of Mitzrayim? Where do we see in that promise a promise to keep us alive throughout the Golios? The Gemara in Broches Daf Yud Beis Amid Aleph says, Omar Rabbe Barchina Nasabe Mishmei Derav, Kol Shaloi Omar Emes V'Yatziv Shachris, V'Emes V'Emuna Arvis, Lo Yotzo Yudei Choivosoi, Shenemar Lahagid Ba'Boiker Chazdecho, V'Emunosecho B'Leilos. So, in the Birchas HaGeula of the morning, we say Emes V'Yatziv, and that whole text. And in the Birchas HaGeula of the night, we say Emes V'Emuna. V'Emuna Kol Zeis V'Kayam Aleinu. These brachas are brachas of Geula that were instituted to accompany the Zechira of Yetzias Mitzrayim in Vayomer of Kriyas Shema. So what's the content of these brachas? Rashi says, Birchas Emes V'Yatziv Kulo Al Chesed She'osa Im Avoseinu Hi. Shoitzion mimitzrayim ubaka lohem hayam veheviron. So that's what the bracha of emes v'yatziv that we say in the morning is about. And Rashi continues, ubirchas emes ve'emuna, which is what we say at night, medaber bo af al ha'asidois. We talk also about the future. She'anu mitzapin, that we're hoping, we're anticipating, we're waiting. Sheyekayem lanu havtochosoi ve'emunosoi ligo'oleinu miyad melachim umiyad oritzim v'losum nafshenu b'chayim ulahadrichenu al bomois oivenu kol eile hanisim hatedirim tomid. This is all miracles that are todir tomid, that are ongoing, and they can and they continuously accompany us throughout the generations. So, I mean, the bracha of emes v'emuna is a birches geula, just like the bracha of emes v'yatziv, which is a matbeya shetiknu chachamim for the zechiras yetzias Mitzrayim, which is said in the Kriyas Shema. So why do we include in this bracha the asidos? Why do we include in this bracha the mitzapim sheikayim lanu haftachosai, with the upcoming Geula al Yidei Mashiach Tzidkenu, and the fact that he keeps us alive throughout the Golus? How does this come into the Birchas HaGeula, which is about Yitzias Mitzrayim? It could be that the answer is written in the bracha itself. We say, "Vayoitzi es amo Yisrael mitoicham lecherus oilam." What is lecherus oilam? He removed us from their midst. Lecherus oilam, to internal freedom. What do you mean, to internal freedom? It could be that that cherus that Yetzias Mitzrayim brought about wasn't yet completed. It's Vayoitzienu mitoicham lecherus oilam. It's still unfinished business. It's still not a complete cherus until the day will come and will be redeemed from the Golus. You know, on the pasuk in Nevuas Bilam, that Keil Moitziom mi Mitzrayim, the Rachaim HaKadosh writes, Omar Moitziom, which is a present tense, l'choire, v'loi hoitziom, which would be a past tense. Hagam sheraboy seinu zal omru in brachas daf lamed ches. The apik mashma that moitziom has a meaning of past tense. V'oichichu mikan, and they prove it from here. Afal pikein. Nevertheless, Yosef mashma lo shenovar im hoya oima hoitzio. It would be more appropriate to use the word of hoitzium if we're talking about the past. So why does the Torah use the word moitzium, which can also have the meaning of present and not only the meaning of past? So he goes on to explain, according to what the Mekubolim say, that Yetzias Mitzrayim is really wasn't completed with the with our leaving Mitzrayim, because Yetzias Mitzrayim is also about the redeeming of Nitzoitzos HaKedusha, redeeming the holy sparks that were held captive in the Golus of Mitzrayim, and that redemption of the Nitzoitzos HaKedusha is something that goes on throughout all the generations. But it could be that it could be understood even according to the Pashtus, that we still didn't really reach our complete Cherus, and therefore the Yitzhak and the Geula are still ongoing until we'll reach the Cherus Olam, and that's why it's Keil Moitziam Mi Mitzrayim. And Lefiza, that's what we're saying. V'hi she'am dalaviseinu v'lanu shaloi echad bilvad omad aleinu l'chaliseinu el shebechol dor v'dor omdim aleinu l'chaliseinu v'HaKadosh Baruch Hu matzileinu miyodam. It's all included in the promise that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made to Avram Avinu, even though the promise is l'chorah just about Yetzias Mitzrayim, but it includes the Yetzia, the ongoing Yetzia, until we reach the final point of Cherus Olam. You see, according to the Arizal, V'achrei Chein Yetzu B'Rechush Godel is a reference to the redeeming of the Nitzoitzois HaKdusha that Klal Yisrael accomplishes throughout the generations in Golus. And then for sure, the V'achrei Chein Yetzu B'Rechush Godel, which is written in the Brisbane Absarim, is not referring to the Geula from Mitzrayim itself, but also to the ongoing condition of Golus and the eventual Geula. You know, the Beis Halevi in Parshas Boy, on the Pasuk Vayomer Hashem al Moshe v'Lahar and Leimor Zois Chukas HaPesach, talks about the known question. It says Va'avodum v'inu oisam arba me'ois shana. Yes, so 400 years we were meant to be in Mitzrayim. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu took us out of Mitzrayim after 210 years. So he brings Midrash Chazal that say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu took us out of Mitzrayim before the time. Before the time. There are other Midrashim that say that it's counted from the time of Leidas Yitzchak. But he explains that that's because, why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu take us out before the time? He says that he brings from the Arizal that if we would have been in Mitzrayim any longer, we would have completely lost our identity as Zera Yaakov, and there wouldn't be whom to redeem anymore. And therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu took us out of Mitzrayim before the time. He brings in the name of Mefarshim that the other Goliaths, during the other Goliaths, we complete those missing years. It was meant to be 400 years, but we went out after 210 years, so there are still years of Shibud that we didn't do. And those years of Shibud we pay for during the future Goliaths. So, Lefi Zeh, we can say that Baruch Shomer Haftachosei LiYisrael, Baruch Hu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Chishei v'saketz, lasois k'moshe Omer Avram Avinu. He calculated, meaning he calculated the end in a way that is not pashut. In other words, al pi pshat, we should have stayed there for 400 years, but he was Chishei v'saketz. And that was because that was the only way that the promise to Avram Avinu can be kept. And that is really the Vihi she'omdal avoseinu v'lonu shelo yechad bilvad amad aleinu l'chaloseinu elo shebchol dor v'dor omdim aleinu l'chaloseinu, because we're paying back for those missing years, and we also have the promise of HaKadosh Baruch Hu matzileinu miyodam, and He will lead us to the Geula Shleima, because that's all included in the Havtacha of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to Avram Avinu by the Bris Bein Absarim. So that's the Vihi she'amdal avoseinu v'lonu. You know the Smak, the Sefer Mitzvahs Cotton, was written by Rabbi Yitzchak mi Kurbil, one of the Balei HaTosfos. So in the first mitzvah, he says that Anoichi Hashem Elokecha Asher Hotzeisecha Me'eretz Mitzrayim is a mitzvah. It's not just an introduction that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is introducing Himself to us as Anoichi Hashem Elokecha Asher Hotzeisecha Me'eretz Mitzrayim, but it's a commandment. And he says, B'zeh Alosh, U'b'zeh Tolui. On this hinges Masha Omru Chachamim, what the Gemara says in Shabbos Daf Lamed Aleph, Sheshoyalin Lo'odom Achar Mise B'shas Dinoi, that when a person comes to the other world, they ask him, Tzipisa liyeshua, have you been waiting for the redemption? Says the Smak, V'heichon kosuv mitzvezu. Where does it say that one is commanded to wait for the redemption, to wait for the Geula? Eloshmamino bazeh tolu. You see that it depends on this. Shekeshem sheyesh lanu lahamin shehoitzionu mi Mitzrayim. Just like we need to believe that He took us out of Mitzrayim. Diksiv anoichi Hashem Elokecha asher hoitzeisecha me'eretz Mitzrayim. Val korchin me'achar shehu dibur. He says it must be, since this is a dibur, meaning he understands a dibur in the sense of a mitzvah, it's a commandment. So what's the commandment? He says, Hachikam. Kishem shani roitzish ta'aminu bi shani oitzeisi eschem. Just like I expect of you to believe in me, who took you out of Mitzrayim, kach ani roitzish ta'aminu bi shani Hashem Elokeichem v'ani osid lekabetz eschem u'lahoshiyachem. So this is a commandment to wait for the ultimate redemption. That's what the Smak says. This is included in Onechi Hashem Elokecha Asher Yitzisicha Meretz Mitzrayim. So how is that included? Must be, as we're saying, without the complete ultimate redemption, the Yitzir from Mitzrayim is unfinished business. And therefore, included in the Anochi Hashem Elokecha Asher Yitzisicha Meretz Mitzrayim is the belief that we will be Zoichet to the Geula Shlema. You know, we have a halacha of Smichus Geula L'Tfilah. That's immediately after the Birchas HaGeula, we have to begin the Shemona Esrei. The Gemara in Brachas Daf Daled asks, but we're mafsik with a bracha of Hashkivenu. After we have the bracha of Gal Yisrael, we have another bracha of Hashkivenu Avinu L'Sholem. So the Gemara says, Kiven de tekinu rabbanon loymar hashkivenu, ke geula arichte damya. Since the rabbanon instituted to say hashkivenu, that is considered one long birches hageula. I mean, something similar the Gemara says over there, Gabi Hashem Sfosai Tiftach, which the Gemara also says, it's a hefsik between Geula and Tfilah. Gemara says, "Kiven de teklinu Rabbana loymar Hashem Sfosai Tiftach," so it's ketfila arichte damya. It's like one long tefillah. That we could understand because Hashem Sfosai Tiftach is me'inyan hatfilah, and we're davening that Hashem should be Pesach our Sfosayim. We should be able to daven. That's also part of the davening. But how are we supposed to understand that given the takinu rabbanon loymar hashkivenu, it's kegeula arichte damya? I mean, this is a bracha that talks about HaKadosh Baruch Hu protecting us on a daily basis. There's absolutely no mention of geula in the bracha of hashkivenu, so it must be that the daily life of a Yid is really moving from Geulas Mitzrayim to the Cheiras Olam. As the Smak says, it's tzipisa Yeshua. So all our life, Ashkivenu Avinu L'Sholem, V'Amidenu Malkeinu L'Chaim Tovim L'Sholem, and Ufreis Aleinu Sukas Shloimecha, all that is really part of the Geula Arichte that takes us from the Yom Tzeischa Me'eretz Mitzrayim until the Geula Hashleima. You know, Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah says, "Harei ani kiven shivim shana v'lo zachisi sheteyomer yitzias Mitzrayim b'leilos ad shedorsho ben zoyma shenema leman tizkor es yom tzeischa me'eretz Mitzrayim kol yemei chayecha." So he says, "Yemei chayecha hayom kol yemei chayecha haleilos." The kol is the leilos. The chachamim omrim yemei chayecha ha'olam hazeh kol lahavi l'maiseh Mashiach. The Gemara in the end of the first parak in Brach, says that according to Ben Zoyma, there is no Zechiras Yitzias Mitzrayim in Yemois HaMoshiach. He darshans a pasuk. So the Rashba in the Chidushei Rashba, he says that there are those that he brings the Tainois HaCholkim Aleinu, those that disagree with us, and they say that from here you see that Torah is Lizman, and not everything that says in the Torah is eternal, because a day will come and the mitzvah of Zechiras Yitzias Mitzrayim will no longer be. The Rashba says, no, Torah zu loy tehem uchlefes, loy tishtane dosei loy lomim, everything that's in Torah's Moshe is oimedes la'olam. And he says like this, Vim titoin alai, if you'll taina against me, he says, mi bittul kriyashma, ritzoini loymar yitzias Mitzrayim, if you'll ask, what's happening with the mitzvah of Zechiras Yitzias Mitzrayim, shehi mitzvah mi mitzvahs ha-Torah, and it will not be la'asid lavai. Da she'ein hakavana b'kriyas shema. The kavana in kriyas shema, meaning the kavana in Zechiris Yitzias Mitzrayim in kriyas shema, is only kadesha nizkor bepeh hanisim she'osa lanu Hashem yizborach kishoytzionu mi'eretz Mitzrayim. Achar heyoiseinu avodim pruchim dalei hakoyach v'tachas sivlus melech va'am kosher. The im haschire nikva benafsheisenu shehu hamashgiach v'hayochol shelo yimnaenu moinea b'shum tzad v'oid shetizchazek benafsheisenu midas habitochen koizik rav. So that's really the essence of the mitzvah of Schiras Yitzias Mitzrayim. Emunah and bitochen. Valkein bo ha'azhora al zeh b'mekoymois rabim b'schiras ha'oisois v'amoifsim v'ayad ha'chazokeh. V'achar heyois ha'tachlis b'schiras ha'peh b'yitzias Mitzrayim. Me'atayna hazoi. Since this is the idea behind Schiras Yitzias Mitzrayim, hine gam ha'tachlis hahu shomur b'hazkireinu kibutz am memushach u'memoirot ba'amim ha'neiroim me'ha'arotzois ha'rechoikos mitzofein u'miyom. V'tia hakavona ahi yoisech hazokim beyoisech hazkora ba'oisech u'benisim yoisech hazokim v'mkein ein mitzvah zu mitzbateles klal. So he says, so the essence of Zechiris Yitzias Mitzrayim is about instilling in ourselves the emunah and bitochen and the Rebbeinu Shalom. So when we'll be mentioning the nisim of the Geula HaSida, when that will take place, we're being mekayim the mitzvah of Zechiris Yitzias Mitzrayim in even a stronger way. This is what the Rashba says. It's still a bit shver because when we say that Torah will not change, we mean to say that the actual mitzvahs will not change, not just the idea of the mitzvah will not change, and we might be doing something else which will preserve or even express in a stronger way the idea behind the mitzvah. But according to these Rishonim that we just saw, the pshat might be that since Yitzias Mitzrayim is really an ongoing process that leads to the Cherus Olam, to the eternal redemption, which takes place Lasid Lavoi, therefore the Zechira of the Geula HaSida incorporates Zechiras Yitzias Mitzrayim, just like the Smak says, that Anochi Hashem Elokecha Hashem Yitzisicha Meretz Mitzrayim is Mechayev the Tzipisa Yeshua, is Mechayev anticipating and waiting for the Yeshua Shlema. Therefore, when we'll be mentioning that Yeshua Shlema, it includes the Zechira of Yitzias Mitzrayim, because that's what brings Yitzias Mitzrayim to its completion. Now, it's possible that this is also alluded to in the mitzvah of Bir Chametz, which comes L'Zeicher Geulas Mitzrayim, that it doesn't happen at once. Yeah, it's spread out over 2 days, and it comes in stages. Yeah, and sometimes between the stages, I mean, we don't see anything happening. But the idea is that Bir Chametz, it's like they say that that Rome wasn't built in one day. But you know that Loinivnis Tzur Elam Churbanos Shel Yerushalayim and Loinivnis Yerushalayim Elam Churbanos Shel Tzur. So Yerushalayim is not built in one day because it's a process, and that process begins with Yitzias Mitzrayim and ends with the Geula Shlema. And Tzipisa Yeshua is as the Smak says, a mitzvah. In any case, the Gemara says that it's something that one is asked L'Yom Adin, and that's always true, and especially in Roya Odam Malchiois Misgarois Zu Bezu, the Gemara says Tzfei L'Raglov Shel Mashiach, that we should be waiting and anticipating the Geula Shlema B'meher B'Yameinu Amen. So we should be Zoiche to be V'noichal Shom Min Hazvochim or Min Hapsochim Asher Yagia Domam Al Kir Mizbachech Ol Rotzain B'Meher B'Yameinu Amen.